This meeting is being recorded.
Another great job, Veronica. Thank you very much. The woman I'm about to introduce, I've known for a real long time. She had a powerful message back then, and she's even grown into a more powerful speaker. When I called and I tried to book her, it was back in February, and this was the open date in April. I said, so I'm so glad I was able to pencil her in and get her when she wasn't out on a speaking engagement. So please let me introduce my good friend, Arisa.
Thank you so much, Joel. Good evening, everybody. My name is Arisa, and I'm most definitely an alcoholic. It is really an honor and a privilege to be with all of you tonight. The date of my last drink was October the 13th of 1993. My home group is the Beacon Group in Boston, Massachusetts. We meet on Monday and Wednesday nights in person and at noon Eastern Standard Time online for 12-step meeting. And I love this reading. But just full disclosure, Joel didn't tell me what the format was until 5 minutes before I got on the meeting, which is fine. I mean, if he did, he told me like in February. So I didn't remember. So this is, unplugged. This is really me. This is what I really think, because it's not like I read that piece all the time, but it is definitely a foundational thing. I got sobered down in Corpus Christi, Texas, and I was very blessed to walk into what I very lovingly call a very fundamentalist meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. They were, the kind of people who really believed in AA as it was from the very, very beginning. The thing they said over and over again that I kept thinking of when we were reading this piece is that AA is not a self-help program. And I also don't think that AA is a mutual aid society, although we get called that a lot. They taught me, and I believe, and this is my opinion, you don't have to have it, that AA is a we help others to get out of God's way program, right? That I came to Alcoholics Anonymous to fix me, and they said, oh, honey, if you would just stop, things would get better, because that's the problem. You've been trying to fix you forever, right? I thought that if you loved me enough, I would be okay. And they're like, no, you got it backwards. If you love the world enough, it'll melt that polar ice cap that you have around your heart, and you will finally feel the love that's been there the whole time. When I read this, this beautiful piece of writing, that Bill has on what it looks like to suit up and show up day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, it gives me great comfort, because the truth is I didn't come to AA because I thought it was a good idea. I just didn't, I'm not one of those people who woke up and thought, maybe we're going to stop drinking today. I mean, I didn't get that alcohol was my problem, because for me, alcohol was a solution. Alcohol is what made it okay for me to live inside my skin, right? That's my reality. My reality was that, I am exactly what the doctor's opinion describes. I'm restless, irritable, and discontented unless, that's me from Jump Street. And sobriety is the most painful thing I have ever experienced. It's like nails on a chalkboard 24 hours a day. I mean, I would rather go be waterboarded than have to be sober. When it's not that I'm stupid. It's not like I don't know that my drinking is a problem. I get that. Okay, I get that at a cellular level. The only thing is that if you leave me in that restless, irritable, and discontentedness long enough, I'm going to want to kill myself. I can't take it. Literally cannot take it. I'd be sitting at this T-junction overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, trying to get up my guts to drive over the edge, because I can't take another day of being in my body. Right. And I would have this miracle. And that miracle was, there's a keg party out at the beach. That's what I mean. Like alcohol treats alcoholism, and I didn't have to die that night. Alcohol kept me alive long enough to get me to you. So when people talk to me about, maybe you should stop drinking, maybe you should look at your drinking, I'm thinking maybe I need new friends. I'm just, because I don't know how to be that girl. When you tell me to live without alcohol, you may as well tell me to lay down and die. Like, just put me in the grave, because I don't want anything to do with it. I will go to any lengths to still be able to have that relief. I did the stuff we do. I did the geographics. I took medication. I went to therapy. I sought religion. I chanted with the Hare Krishnas. I did yoga and Pilates. I was vegan. I went to South America. I paddled up the Amazon and swam with the piranhas, because that'll fix it. Like, these are my good ideas about how to treat the gerbils in my head. Like, this head of mine doesn't shut up. I mean, I got stage characters. Our book talks about stage characters, and I got a whole host. I mean, it is a one-woman show in here all night, every day, morning to night. Like, it doesn't stop. And every single one of them has a different idea about what I'm supposed to do. And I got the artist and the mother and the sister and the daughter and the friend and the sponsor and the sponsee and the spiritual woman. I got Xena the warrior in there. I got Wonder Woman. I got spiritual girl. I mean, and they all are talking at the same time, and they all have an opinion about how my life should be. And that's me normal. Like, how do you appear sane when that's what's in your mind? And I hear people talk a lot about, I don't have a problem with alcohol anymore. Like, I have a problem with thinking. I still have a problem with alcohol. I think I'm always going to have a problem. Alcohol is always going to be there. It's always about drinking for me, because if I don't have that spiritual experience, I will eventually go back to that, because I can't take the pain. I'm a wuss. That's the honest truth. Like, I need something to get me off of me. I'm the white on the rice. The problem that I have is the redhead. Like, she's the problem, the girl in the mirror. Like, how do I get her on, some other wavelength? And I just couldn't do it. For me, drinking was, I could do it. I could stay dry for a little while, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, right? But it was always like, how long can you hold your breath? How long can I take this pain before I need some relief? And the truth is that today, with 29 and a half years of sobriety, that's still true, right? I have alcoholism. It is still about alcohol will always answer that emotional sobriety has to be there, or I am eventually going to drink, because that when I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, like, the reason our book talks about in the family afterwards, like, we're not a glum lot. It says, because newcomers would not want this if they saw no fun in it. Now, I love the chapter on the family afterwards. I think if you want to talk about emotional sobriety, some of the best writing in the big book is in the family afterwards. It is in the family afterwards. I don't know. Happy, joyous, and free, right? I've never met an alcoholic who doesn't want to be happy, joyous, and free. We come in here, it's like our new battle cry, happy, joyous, and free. Yeah, but I say it in a selfish, self-centered way. I want to be happy, joyous, and free. In the family afterwards, it changes how I view this thing. When I really sat with what it says, we are sure God wants us happy, joyous, and free. Wait a minute. Now you've just changed everything. The whole game has just gone sideways for me, because you see, I don't like to trust God. I don't trust God. Let's be honest. Like, it is really convenient to distrust God, because then I get to stay in charge. I like being in charge. I like that delusion of control. And that's what worry is too. Like, egocentric people don't do things they don't agree with. I don't want to have to listen to anybody other than me. I like to be the I am in my life, right? But the truth that you guys helped me to realize through doing this step work is that following God's path is actually easy. The hard thing that in my life is not listening to her, not listening to this girl, not listening to me anymore, right? And when, so in the family afterwards, when it says, we are sure God wants us happy, joyous, and free, right? I really sat with how different that was. What if I could be sure? What if the most important word in that sentence is the word sure? What does it look like for me to be sure today that that's the God I'm going to choose today? That's the thing I'm going to feed. You know, I have, you know, these really small, limited concepts of God, and they pop up all the time. And those are the things that really undercut my emotional sobriety. Right. In the 10 steps and like one of my favorite things to talk about. And I remember even when I lived in New York, like this is actually when I got the concept of this idea of it with, you know, Joel and I were friends that way back in the day in New York. Right. And it's, for me, the 10th step is the Alanis Morissette step. Okay. You know, because I got one hand in my pocket. That's my 10th step. That's hanging on to God. And the other one's out there doing whatever it's doing, hailing a taxi cab, smoking a cigarette, getting in trouble, whatever it is. Right. There's life is going on. But if I'm not holding God's hand, I am going to be in trouble. That's my truth. Okay. That 10th step, the 10th step for me started out of some playing up on aisle 7, right? Like I have made another mess. It is time to get out the buckets and the mops and the Lysol because there's a mess, you know, like the redhead walked through. What are you going to do? You know? And today, like the progress, like we talk about the progression of the disease all the time, but there is a progression of sobriety. There really is. If you live and walk this path day by day, we get better. We really do. You know, I don't have that stinking thinking. The think sign was not meant to go upside down. It was printed right side up. And it says that I can trust my mental faculties with assurance. After all, God gave me my brain to use, but that's qualified only if I'm doing certain things, right? That 10th and 11th step, if those things are really in place, that's the key for me with emotional sobriety, right? So, you know, this idea that I am sure God wants me happy, joyous, and free leads me back. Anytime I am disturbed, the problem is inside of me. I'm always the problem. Okay, well, what does that have to do? Because what that does is it shows me, it wakes me up to the fact that my God's too small. Wrong God. Anytime I'm in fear, wrong God. Anytime I think there's not enough in the world, wrong God, right? Anytime I assume malice on you, wrong God. Right? What if, like, radical acceptance? What is acceptance really? Like acceptance, I thought acceptance means I have to let you do whatever you want to do. And it always was something not good that you were going to do to me. Right. But acceptance, as I understand it today, is to truly understand what's going on, to get a better understanding, you know, to have a group conscience in my own life. Because I can't see behind my own back. I can't see around the corners. I need you guys to see that. When I can truly assess a situation properly, that's what acceptance is. Because when I do that, then I'm willing to really put into effect what I'm hearing from God, right? If I'm not fighting you all of the time, right? The easiest inventory I ever learned to do is, am I holding God's hand? Just stop throughout the day and really ask myself, am I holding God's hand? When my daughter was little, when I say little, I mean like little, right? She's almost 20 now. I read this newspaper article about a family who went to the zoo, and they let their little girl run around the zoo. And, you know, you would think that should be fine, right? Except that she squeezed in through the into the lion's cage, and she died. She was mauled to death. Okay. Terrible story, terrible story. But I identify, okay? Because I get these bright ideas. I am the girl who thinks she is doing something that's just great. It's great. I'm just going to go pet the pretty kitty. That's it. And then all of a sudden, it's like a nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I am the girl who, I mean, when you hear some of the stories of like, not long before I met Joel, just before I moved up to New York, I met a man. My sister introduced me. He was a good friend of hers. She worked with him, all that, you know, and I thought, wow, this guy is it. And we're talking about getting married, and he lives in New York already. So this is perfect. I'm about to move to New York. And, that's how I knew God was real, right? I mean, he showed up, right? Like the cash and prizes, the right things are happening. I'm going to move to New York. He's already there. He's talking marriage. It all looks like the world is coming together, right? A year later, he's married to my sister. Can create the most impressive situations, and they are the only two people I know in New York, right? And neither of them want anything to do with me. And I'm the one that gets to make amends. And I'm the one that gets to be, bridesmaid in their wedding. I mean, you got to try hard to make that kind of chaos, but my reality today is that it's all about my state of consciousness. It's not that, you're bad and you did it to me, or you're good, or, this whole thing that, I'm always trying to read everything right, and I had a sponsor who told me, she said, you are always the lawyer for the prosecution. From now on, it is your job to be the lawyer for the defense. Go walk a mile in their moccasins. What is it like to be them? Better yet, what is it like for the world to experience you? Can you imagine? I mean, I ended up getting married to somebody much better. Thank God. The best thing that ever happened to me is that one got, taken off my plate. And I never would have been able to appreciate David if, that whole debacle hadn't happened, right? Thank God, I don't always get what I think is best for me. Because, doing a third step means it's not my life anymore. I gave up my right to my life. Right? Where do you want me, God? To build with me and do with me. And I like that word with. My son likes to build with Legos or with blocks, right? I get to be one of God's blocks today. Where do you want me? I am the girl who has opinions. I have a whole lot of I'm a very opinionated person, okay? And I had a sponsor who said, that and about, well, now probably $5.50 will get you a cup of coffee. In other words, it ain't worth squat. In Alcoholics Anonymous, we don't trade on that commodity, right? We are about experience, strength, and hope. Don't tell me what you think I should do. Tell me what you have done. That's what really matters to me. That's depth and weight. Me personally, I'm looking for fast food spirituality. I want to just zip through, pick it up, and, take it home and be done. And, I'm better now. Thanks anyway. But how about growing in understanding and effectiveness? I don't know about that. I don't want to grow. I want to be here now, right? I'm ready to, have the heavens part and the angels sing, I had this idea that I could just get there, right? If I could just get there, wherever there was. But it's all about being here, right? And when I get to I don't know, I'm teachable. And when I can embrace that I don't know, the isness of now, it works, right? And I can let go of these ideas, because I have these ideas that God's disappointed in me, that I didn't live up to what I should be doing, that God's mad at me, that God, I have all these, I got small little gods, and I had to learn, especially with that 10th step, wrong God. That 10th step today is much more about, hey, you know what? It looks like that tile might fall down. What if we took care of that before we have the mess on aisle 10, right? Or even better yet, looking for the opportunities to bring more love and joy into this world. Because whatever I feed grows, right? My emotional sobriety got a whole lot better when I chose to love you first. When I stopped trading with you, when I was willing to say, it's not my life. Like, my job today is hopefully to let you see God through me. How much love can I bring to the game? And by the way, I'm going to fail. Years ago, I read that a spiritual person makes about 600 mistakes in a day. We're talking like the Dalai Lama. Think about that. 600 mistakes in a day. And I have trouble finding two. I don't think I'm more spiritually developed. I think I'm less, right? If I am willing to actually look at this instead of was I, into more like, where's Waldo? Because they're there. The mistakes are there, and a mistake is something that I'm doing at the time. I think it's a good idea, like dating this guy, right? Who ends up my brother-in-law. Okay. The things I think that are good ideas, because I can't see all the way around. I need you to be able to see me better. That's the truth. It's got to be a we program. It's not me. When again that in the family afterwards, it's got some of my most favorite things in the whole world. Avoid then the deliberate manufacture of misery. I don't know about you, but I manufacture misery really well. I mean, you give me any situation and I can turn it into a problem, right? Me plus something can become a problem. That same thing plus God becomes an opportunity. See, in Alcoholics Anonymous, I really believe we deal in spiritual alchemy. I hear a lot of people say things like, resentments are premeditated. No, expectations are premeditated resentments. Sounds really good. Sounds really good. I don't like it. I personally don't like it. If it works for you, it works for you. That's great. I don't like it. You know why? Because my big book tells me to expect miracles. My big book tells me there is nothing too big for God. There is nothing that God can't do. That, when you guys have taught me, see, the alchemists were trying to turn lead into gold. And in Alcoholics Anonymous, you guys have taught me how to turn crap into gold. The worst things of my life have given me the best blessings. I came in here, I as a child at the age of 15, I was abducted and raped. I've gone through a lot of bad stuff. I came from a very violent home. There's a lot of bad stuff that happened to me. And people would say to me, well-meaning people, they would say, whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. And I wanted to punch them in the nose. They don't get it. If you haven't been through something like that, that's a really dangerous thing to say to somebody who's really actually been truly victimized, okay? It made me angry. And it made me distrust God even more. Everything happens for a reason, really. So I deserve this. I brought it on myself. Like, no. And you guys helped me to understand that everything that doesn't kill me can make me happier. And that nothing is wasted in God's world. That there is nothing so bad that God can't add enough sugar to turn into a blessing. It doesn't have to happen. But if it does, see, one of the most misquoted things in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is we get up to the podium, we say, I'm going to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. But it is life. In how it works, it's not what it says. It says what we were like, what happened, and what we are like now. I have changed. I have had a spiritual awakening. I do not live on my own anymore. I am holding God's hand. If I am holding God's hand, I can't get in trouble. That family, the little girl who got in the lion's cage, if they'd been holding her hand, she would not have gotten harmed. And I am the girl. If I have to be checking in all the time. Am I holding God's hand? If I'm not holding God's hand, I will go pet the pretty kitty. I will end up trying to marry somebody who ought to be my brother-in-law. Like, that's the kind of girl I am. I don't know about that. Like some are sicker than others, right? But I have to be, that's why I said, I call it the Alanis Morissette step, that 10 step. Am I holding God's hand? If I am not connected to God, I'm just like a dog on linoleum, a whole lot of energy and going nowhere. I mean, I'm just, I getting to the place where when things aren't going my way, the real answer is try not having a way. How about whatever is one of those spiritual terms I've ever known. Somebody asked me once, I joke a lot of like, someday I'd love to have it, like make t-shirts that say whatever. And they were like, is that with an exclamation mark, a question mark, ellipse, what? I'm like, yes. I mean, yes, whatever, ever. Like, it's not my life. It's not my life. I gave it to God's. I am in charge of taking care of God's little girl today and making sure that she is well cared for, that she goes only to safe places, that she's with people that she loves, that she is actively loving other people. I got to get back to this place where I don't have to be perfect. The only thing I have to do perfectly is be perfectly human. I have to be willing to fall down on my butt over and over and over again and be one of. super sober, like that stage character needs to die. Like when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do every single morning and have for, I don't even know, like decades, first thing that happens, I roll straight out of bed and onto my knees. Do not let my feet even hit the floor. And I thank God for divorcing me from self-pity, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And I thank God for making me the very best wife, mother, daughter, sister, sponsor, and sponsee that I can possibly be. Sometimes I hang out longer, then I'll go to the restroom. I won't even go to the restroom first because the stage characters start. I mean, I go straight. Why is it? What comes first on that list? It's self-pity. I am married to self-pity. Couldn't it at least be vengeance? I mean, let's wake up with vengeance. At least I'll feel like, I'll flick hip and cool. No, self-pity. Why me? I mean, come on. It's not a pretty face. It's not the girl I want to be. I don't like being that person. I do this because I like the effect produced, but I don't do this because I woke up one day and said, oh, it's a great idea. I think I'm going to try that. I did it because I hated the results of not doing it. That's the reality. I'm the girl who will try anything for a little while, but being consistent with something, I don't like that. I don't like that. I like I said, I'm in for the fast food spirituality thing, but I really got up close and personal with this idea that it's my state of consciousness in this moment that decides what the next moment is going to look like. So Joel said, talk about some stuff that's really right here and now. And I'm going to tell you about something that's recent, not right here and now, but the best, most extreme example of difficult stuff I went through happened just before the pandemic. And my mom got cancer, and yeah, that's hard, but that's not what the issue really was. Mom lives down in Texas. I have two sisters and a brother down in Texas, and I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. Okay. And my mom, I don't know, something like I've had a really, really good relationship with my mother since I've been sober. And I'm the girl who, when the big hurricane came through, took care of all that stuff, I'm the girl who I put my mother in hospice. Okay. That's the kind of relationship that we had, but I'm the long distance daughter. And within the last, 5 months of my mother's life, all of a sudden, like just weird stuff started. I mean, it's like the bad TV movie, right? The will gets changed. They move her in the middle of the night. I get a phone call. Like, if you want to get the stuff that mom's giving you, you have to show up at the house on Thursday. It's Monday. I'm in Boston. I can't get a mover by Thursday. I literally asked if I could have a little more time to arrange a mover. And my mother was like, no, I'm more important than you. Like, this is like, it's crazy stuff. I show up, and I've got a U-Haul and my what was he, maybe 81-year-old father helping me, because this is the only people, like, I don't have anybody else, right? I'm trying to be a good daughter here. And she calls the cops on me. I mean, it's crazy, right? The will gets changed, money goes missing, jewelry goes missing, all of this stuff. And I had to take a step back and just let it be. Let my sisters be the ones, like it was all about, like, there was all this drama, like somehow I was trying to hijack my mother from my sisters, or I don't even know how you can come up with this story. But anyway, and then my father-in-law got sick at the same time when my mom was dying. And Charlie is in the ICU here, and mom is dying in Texas. And so I couldn't go be at her deathbed. I don't have one of these beautiful deathbed AA stories that you hear so often. I got a text that told me my mother died. And then I was told that I wasn't allowed to tell anybody. And then I was told when the funeral was going to be, and it was the following weekend. And they knew my father-in-law was dying. And I said, I don't know if I can be there. Like, Charlie is dying. My husband is here. My kids are here. All of their family is here. Like, I can't. And they were like, well, that would be too bad. Yeah, that'd be too bad. Okay, so cease fighting anything and everyone, right? I mean, is it worth it? Do I need this fight? Am I even fighting with rational people? And the answer was no. Charlie died on Thursday. I was able to get on a plane on Friday to go to my mother's funeral in West Virginia. And I had an inkling. I got there on Friday. The funeral was actually on Saturday morning. I had an inkling it might be a challenging day. intuitive thought, right? Intuitively know how to handle a situation which used baffles. And I found there was one meeting that morning at like 7 a.m. And I go to this meeting and it is just packed with people, somebody celebrating an anniversary, and which is great, except they kept calling on people, but they kept calling on people to talk about the celebrant, right? And I'm raising my hand. I'm like, I am dying here. Like, I don't know how I'm going to face this day. And they don't call on me, and they don't call on me, and they don't call on me. And the meeting is about to end, and I'm just ready to cry my heart out. And I'm thinking, this is me at, 20 some odd years of sobriety, thinking, really, God? You don't have anybody to show up for me. You're going to put me through this day completely alone. Not even AA is going to give me an opportunity to feel like I'm loved. Really? And then they called for burning desires. And the only time in my entire sobriety, I raised my hand for burning desires. And I told them I was on my way to my mother's funeral and that I didn't know how it was going to go, because the last time, I was in my mother's house, they called the police on me. And that, all of this terrible stuff had happened. And that, I just didn't know how I was going to get through this day without making a disaster. And these two women, one who had more sobriety than me and one who has less, came up to me, and they spent the entire day with me. They went up into the mountains of Appalachia where my mother was buried. They were there when I found out that my mother had died a day before anybody bothered to tell me. They were there when there was not a seat for me at the burial. They were there when I was treated like terribly. And because they were there, I didn't have to make a mess. They were God through me. They showed me the love. You see, I have this delusion, this really, really incorrect thought that if you loved me, you would do ... If you loved me, you wouldn't do ... That look at all of the love I've given so many people that I help. Really, are you kidding me here? You're going to leave me high and dry? But here's the thing. If I love you enough, it's going to melt that polar ice cap, and I'm going to let you in to love me. If I love you, that love goes into the world and it will come back, just maybe not the way I think it's gonna. And I look for God's fingerprints on my life. See, that's emotional sobriety. Am I willing to look for what is right in my life? And see, I'm an accountant by nature, not really. I hate numbers, but I'm a noticer. I'm sure there are no other noticers here. I'm a noticer, right? I notice, but I only seem to notice what you do wrong. I only seem to keep track of how you've let me down, how you've disappointed me, how you shouldn't have ... I never seem to have a long list of inventory about what you've done right. I never seem to notice all the people who say, hey, it's great to see you, just the one who didn't. What is that about? How do you help a person with a mind like that? You see, I love to get divorced. If I don't get divorced every single moment, I don't get to stay married to David. There is no marriage. I get sick in self. That's what this is about. I have to get the me off of me. And there are only two things I've ever known that really can do that for me. And it's a whole lot of God or a whole lot of booze, right? And I get God through you. And most of the time it's through giving this message. But if that circle isn't complete around that triangle, then I will feel depleted and I will not believe in that God of abundance anymore. And I will start believing that there are other shoes that are going to drop. When I knew Joel, I was in graduate school, and I'm an artist. So you can see one of my paintings behind me. I paint with fire. I literally paint with fire. Okay, that's what I do. I joke, I'm a professional pyromaniac. Okay, and literally, it is painting with chaos. You can't control smoke. It is, how do you take this thing that you cannot control and find something beautiful in it? And this is the work that I was doing in graduate school, right? And then one night I came up to Massachusetts, for the 4th of July. I was here for the 4th of July. And somebody shot a bottle rocket through the window of my art studio, and the whole place burned down 3 months before my MFA show. 2 years worth of work up in flames. there's a little irony. My smoke paintings burned, you know, you gotta admit, a little funny if you think about it. And I will never forget, I walked into that room with another sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and she looked at me. So, you know, it was this big stone abbey. So the room was fine. The contents were gone. You know, what are you going to do? And she looked at me and she said, you know, this didn't happen to you, right? And for the first time in my life, I knew she was right. That Eeyore cloud that I've been walking around with my whole life was gone. It wasn't raining on me. It's fires happen. I'd spent my whole life saying, why me? Why me? Why is it always the redhead? Why me? Right? And I'd gotten to a place where I'd really finally learned, why not me? Fires happen. Fires happen. Bad stuff happens. Life happens. The question is, am I going to have that God of lemonade? And, you know, my job is to squeeze the lemons and to absolutely know, to be sure, to insist that God's got enough sugar to make anything sweet. You know, I'm a temper tantrum girl. I mean, you bring any 2-year-old out and I promise you, I can take them down. When I don't want to have to, trust me, these claws do not come out easily, right? I mean, and today I have learned, you guys taught me that, again, family afterwards, to absolutely insist on enjoying my life. Insist. That's a spiritual temper tantrum. Nobody is going to make me do anything I don't want to do. I get to be the woman that I want to be today. That is the deal. It doesn't matter that there's no seat for me at the funeral. It doesn't matter that I don't know when my mom died. It doesn't matter that I didn't get the ring she said I was supposed to have. It doesn't matter that there's money missing. It doesn't matter. I get to decide if I am going to be kind and loving towards all or not. Am I going to be the woman that I'm going to respect when I look in the mirror or not? It's not about you. You see, because when I did that first inventory, my sponsor was talking about these buttons. My family installed a lot of buttons. These people are nuts. They really are. I mean, some of them literally like straitjacket nuts, you know. My brother's a schizophrenic, you know, I mean, they're nuts. And they installed these buttons. And when they would press these buttons, I would just start, you know, I would fight because it's what I do. I didn't realize that I didn't have to. I didn't realize that that think sign could be turned right side up, that I could trust my mental faculties with assurance if I learned how to actually practice these principles in all of my affairs, that this was my inventory and the world and its people are often quite wrong, period. What am I going to do? That in steps 8 and 9, you guys handed me a set of wire cutters and I got to clip those wires and change what happens when those buttons get pushed. Today, when those buttons get pushed, I go to Alcoholics Anonymous. Even when I don't know any of you, I know how to say, this is too big for me. I can't see. Lack of power is still my dilemma. It's always my dilemma. It's always going to be my dilemma. And I'm looking for power. And I need to look in spiritual places for that power. And I see God through you. I do better when I'm with you. I like to stick around with people who do more when life is bad and who do more when life is good and who help me raise the bar. I read I'm not a runner. I'm not an athlete, not at all. Okay. But I read years ago that runners like to pace themselves by people that are going a little bit faster because subconsciously you start going faster. That's why we tell newcomers, stick with the winners. We also tell newcomers to write gratitude lists, right? But then we graduate to an attitude of gratitude. I don't know about you, but I can't have an attitude of gratitude unless I'm actually practicing gratitude. You know, stop, drop, and roll. Actually stop and see what is right. My sponsor really literally said, I want you to look for God's fingerprints on your life. How can you see God? You know, that coincidence is when God is choosing to remain anonymous, right? That I still seem to think God's got something to do with the bad stuff. God has nothing to do with bad stuff. God wasn't up there saying, give her a fire. You know where God is? God is in the fact that I was willing to see, the old timers in my first home group, they would say the other meaning of AA was attitude adjustment. It's not my problem. It's my problem with my problem. And when I walked into that studio, I didn't feel traumatized. I felt inspired. Literally, it was like stepping into a Salvador Dali painting. The clock was melted. It was really kind of cool. The light fixtures were dripping down amazingly. And I'm a girl that works with smoke. And you could literally see how the fire had rushed through the rooms, up the walls, across the ceiling. It was awesome. In the true sense of the word, awesome. And I was awake and aware of it. And my painting changed in an instant. I'm the only person in that class who graduated on time because I didn't feel traumatized. I felt inspired. I felt like God had tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, kid, that was your idea of smoke painting. Here's mine. And I got to embrace the chaos because I was talking the game. How do you take a negative and turn it into a positive? Baby, put your mouth, put your whatever I'm saying, put your money where your mouth is. That's what I'm trying to say. And I got to do that. And I got up really early every day. I went to a 6 a.m. meeting, took a train up to Harlem, painted all day, went back, and we go to an 8 o'clock meeting, get up the next day and do it again. I started sponsoring more people. Every time crazy stuff happens in my life, here comes the parade of crazy people. When my daughter was born, she was really, really sick. She stopped breathing twice before I got her home from the hospital. Okay. And I just moved up here. I didn't know hardly anybody in Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know where to go. There weren't online meetings. Okay. There were tape of the month club. And I mean, cassette tape of the month club, And that was my connection to Alcoholics Anonymous, because actually long distance was still kind of expensive back then. My husband and I made a deal that, if I was willing to move to Boston, he wouldn't complain about the long distance or the heating bill. Got good on the long distance, heating bill, not so great. But, it was hard to be here alone. And that's when I started this big book meeting I was talking about before the meeting. I invited the couple of people that I knew who wanted to do this stuff into my home so that I could get, do that 12-step work that I knew was going to be so important to me. And I had these tape of the month, Glenn sending me the tape of the month, and I'd call Glenn. I'm like, I need somebody new to listen to. I can lip sync to Joe and Charlie now. Alcoholics Anonymous met me where I was at, right? And when my son was born, he was in even worse shape. He couldn't walk, he couldn't talk. He couldn't eat anything. He ate a hyperallergenic formula until he was 4.5 years old. Kids like mine aren't supposed to live. People told me, all the doctors told me, there's nothing we can do. And it's not gonna be, but see, you guys taught me to believe in miracles. You guys taught me there's nothing too big for God. And today, I took them to do things that I never felt like God gave me sick children. I felt like God had given them the mother that they needed, the mother who was going to come at this with a heart that was truly open, a mother who would say, well, just keep trying. See, I believe in the word trying. I know some people in AA don't like that. We don't try, we do. I don't know. My big book says trying a lot. I trip and fall a lot. My sponsors like to raise the bar on me because they believe more in me than I believe in me. And that was what I got to bring to the game with my children. And my daughter's at Harvard now. My son's an Eagle Scout, right? I mean, they're amazing kids. They're amazing kids. And he climbs mountains. This kid who couldn't walk or talk climbs mountains and does debate, for crying out loud. That's because of you, because you guys taught me that I get to believe in miracles, that I get to keep answering the door. I get to keep saying yes. I keep getting to say, I don't know, but I don't believe in a small little world. That's what emotional sobriety is about, that I need to get up and make sure that I am rooted in love, that I set my aim every single day, that my intention is how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. It's not that I need to do everything for everyone. It's where does God need me most tonight? Am I willing to grow by facing and rectifying the problems of my life today and let God convert them into assets. That's from page 124, right? That God is here to convert every problem I have, all of my shortcomings, into assets. Every character defect is just a character asset out of proportion. How do I use it in a godly way? I love this way of life. Like, I wake up most mornings in awe. This life shouldn't have happened to me. I mean, I grew up a poor, battered little girl in South Texas. This life was not going to happen. My mother never thought I'd even go to college. How did I get so blessed? And it is because you guys taught me how to believe in miracles. When somebody says, no, to say, you don't know my God. You don't know my God. And it is hard. It is all about that spiritual temper tantrum. It is all about coming back. Wrong God. Every time I think it can't happen, or you don't like me, or it matters that my sisters don't like me, or any of that's wrong God. Wrong God. I do not believe there is ever a time that God is disappointed in us. At the end of the nightly review, when it says we ask God's forgiveness, that screwed me up for a long time. I come from a long line of missionaries on one side of my family. I should mention that perhaps. And it screwed me up because I thought it was saying, I have to go to God and beg, right? But what I realized is that the reason it bugged me was because if God made me, right? And if God doesn't make junk, then, and I can't be perfect. If spiritual people make 600 mistakes in a day, then why do I need God's forgiveness? And what I realized is that it's because I still have lack of power. On my own, I can't forgive myself. I can't see me the way God sees me. I can't see you the way God sees you. I'm asking for the ability to have God's forgiveness inside of me, and for you. That I can actually look at my sisters and be grateful for the fact that, you know what, I don't know how they experienced my mother's death, but I know it wasn't easy. And I am very sure that it looks really, really different from where they're sitting and from where I'm sitting. And that maybe I don't have to assume malice. Maybe that forgiveness is not that I am canceling your debt to me. Maybe forgiveness is about realizing that it's none of my business, that that's between you and God. My deal is between me and God, that I'm going to do my very best today to make sure that I'm offering love. To walk, I would rather have an open heart that gets broken than a closed one, like it was when I got here. To really believe that, what if that's really their 100%? And at the beginning right before the meeting, we were talking about Dr. Bob's story. And at the end of Dr. Bob's story, he says something about, if you have any form of intellectual pride that keeps you from doing this, I feel sorry for you. And people read that. First time I read that, I didn't like it until I realized what he was actually saying is, I feel sorrow for you, that's what it meant. To be sorry was to feel sorrow. I feel sorrow for you. How about that? That's compassion to feel with. I feel your pain. I know what it's like to be so locked in self that I'm just tearing everybody else up around me. That maybe it's just like when there's a wet drunk in a meeting and they start throwing up and it gets on you. Maybe they're just throwing up and they're not throwing up on you. Maybe what happened with my mother was just her sickness coming out and it wasn't about me. Maybe what my sisters are doing is their spiritual sickness and it has nothing to do with me. How about I look at it like that and I can feel sorrow for them and not judgment and not contempt, and just be able to really, truly love with no strings attached. My job is to love you, period. If you love me back, it's bonus. I'm just not trading with you anymore. You can't take away from me. You can only add to me. That's how big my God is. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting me be with you tonight. It's great to see some dear friends here. And I love this way of life. Love Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for my sobriety. Have a great night. Don't make other plans.
At this point of our meeting, we allow the person who did the lead share to call on anyone else in the Hollywood Squares. If you see any people you'd like to put on the spot.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. Thank you. This is fun. Well, now I did see some people. I can just call on anybody, I suppose, but I was looking for one person. I think maybe they've gone. All right, Jimmy, how about you?
Hey, y'all, my name is Jimmy, and I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic.
Hi, Jimmy.
And the world is a beautiful place because of that. Thank you so much, Arisa. I always get so much out of your talk. I can hear Mark speaking through you, talking about 10 and 11. Yeah, and I love your Alanis Morissette thing because I'm always, just half in there, and, me getting into 10 and understanding, at first it was that cleanup on aisle. It was this manifesting in the world, all these things happening. So I am always making these amends. And I don't realize that it starts getting to be where I start making this mental process. So my thought life can be on a much higher plane. So I can start changing these things as those 4 little dressing rooms that all my character defects come out of: the selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And all of them come out. When they come through my head, I can start to change that. I can give it to God, and I can talk to somebody else about it so that I can see it out in front of me. It doesn't tell me to go get advice from somebody else. Get it out of your head so you can get rid of it, and then amend your thinking. It doesn't say go approach somebody in there. Like, this may be the second level of step 10. First we start manifesting, we're apologizing to everybody, but it starts making amends to the neurons that fire together start to wire together, the super highways that God has created, so that I can start using my thinking in a different way, so I can get my thought life on a much higher plane, so I can be with God, so I'm not having to do all this stuff. And then I change my thoughts to somebody that I can help change my thoughts, change a bad thought with a good thought. And this whole mental thing with this, we start to get better as we go through this. Yeah, we're not sick every day suffering. I may as well grow a leg on my back if I want to be sick every day, just kicking myself, waking up with this untreated alcoholism that, oh, it's never going to get better. I start to get better doing this stuff, and I start to work with people. And what started to be as selfish, I get something by helping somebody, and I'm helping somebody so that I can get the gorilla off my back, starts to be enlightened self-interest. And I start doing it because I realize that I'm getting something back from this. And then it starts to be, I don't know what the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And it's this altruism that starts to go in, and I'm not doing it anymore. It's not me just doing something selfishly to get something else, a result out of it. And this is such a beautiful program. And the way that eloquent way that you walk through this and talk through this is just beautiful. And I love you. And it was great seeing you tonight. And thank you so much for calling on me.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. I had the pleasure of meeting an online friend yesterday. So, Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth, alcoholic. Thank you so much for calling on me. I know I got to meet you last night. It was amazing. I really love what you said about I can't worry about if someone's loving me. I can't worry about really anyone else, like what they're doing or not doing. My well-being can't depend on what other people are doing, and can't depend on what happens. It can't depend on what a beautiful story you told about your artwork getting, burned, and it is beautiful. I have to trust that God has me, and this is all for me. I heard someone say, things don't happen to me, they happen for me, and I have an opportunity. What am I going to do with this? Because I have to get out of that God role, be in the God role anymore. It keeps me really sick. And I'm so glad I know that today. You know, I'm actually in Boston right now, which is Arisa's current hometown. And it's been, this is probably the first trip. I mean, I just can't, I just have been taking it all in. You know, I haven't been trying to do anything, manage anything, control anything, just sort of, I've got a good traveling partner. My son's dad is really awesome at kind of getting things done and you know, helping, you know, do everything that needs to be done. But I just feel myself really just going with just being really present, you know, and just having so much gratitude watching my, you know, we're up here to visit colleges and watching my son just kind of come out of his shell, or that's how it looks to me. And I don't know, something feels different. And it's because I'm practicing the principles of this program in my life every day. I'm living this as a way of life. And I've only been doing that since 2020, you know, 35 years sober. I am a late bloomer. I just didn't hear a lot about it where I was going. You know, I didn't have that message. And I'd never even heard about emotion. I mean, you know, I maybe heard of the letter once, you know, but I didn't really know what they meant. Just wasn't, you know, I was busy with my life. I barely went to meetings for a long period of time. And I'm so glad to learn about this because, you know, as I was telling you yesterday, like I believe my disease is progressive. And I can't tolerate more pain. I tolerate less pain the longer I'm sober, you know, and I need to have these tools. And so it's a process of constantly learning how to use them, you know, in my life, seeing where I need to use them in my life and then using them in my life, not just talking about it. And I have to all the time. But the result is I feel peaceful and it doesn't matter what happened. Things don't need to happen to make me okay. I can weather the storms and I've got my God with me and we're good, you know? And then I can worry about being loving to others. And God, it's so amazing when I could just try to be loving to other people instead of worrying about what they're giving to me. And then I get everything. It's just like not the way my brain works. Being a self-centered alcoholic, you know? Thank you for calling on me. And it was so amazing to meet you. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
How about Charles? Charles, would you like to share? Yeah, you're almost moving. Charles F. I don't want to try and say your last name.
Thank you. Recovered alcoholic named Charles Frios. Loved your share. It was great. It made me think about a lot of different things. My brain ain't capable of too many different things too. But living in the now has been what I've been working on for the last few years. Because on page 25, you know, it talks about how we have a new attitude towards life and towards our fellows and towards our God. I've spent many years of living that through other people. And a lot of people have heard me say this, but if I ever wrote a book, it'd be, how in the world can I stop being you? Because my past wasn't that good. I was scared when I came in Alcoholics Anonymous because in how it works, it talks about mentally incapable of being honest. And the word mentally incapable just scared the crap out of me. And being honest just threw me in a whole different loop because I didn't know either one. I did a lot of brain damage with my alcoholism and my drug addiction. So it's real easy for me to stay in today, but I get these little flashcards every now and again that's got these pictures in my mind that take me places where I really don't want to be. But I know that one of the things that I heard you talk about with people, and a real good friend of mine told me, you know what, people think of me as none of my damn business. You know, because I've always worried about what you thought, how I looked, how I talked. And with a 7th grade education, my vocabulary has never been that great. So I picked up words from people. I picked up the way they talked and used it. And it's with many years of sobriety, I'm just getting to realize that I'm still that precious child of living, caring God. And that's all I have to be. And I can be that right now, right here. But thank you for calling on me, and God bless.
Thanks, Charles. How about Kathy? Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy, an alcoholic. I think I first heard you speak at the Boston group on 6 and 7 month or so ago, 2 months. And then I think you spoke at the IWC in Dallas. That was amazing. And I just happened to check my calendar or the Facebook and saw the flyer because I was going to skip tonight. It's a full moon and I was going to light a fire and relax. But I thought, oh my goodness, I need to hear this woman talk again because I have got to I've got to balance the noise with this stuff. And I appreciate your friend Elizabeth. And you know, it doesn't matter how long we're around, we still have to keep doing this. The disease doesn't quit. And I've been a mess and I've been on good terms, and I've got a lot of little fires going on around me that I've created. And I still don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. And so I'm learning another way, a better way, a deeper, learning how to have a deeper connection with a higher power, continuing to try to get out of the way. And it's not easy. I could relate to a lot of things you said. I'm definitely alcoholic. I definitely have alcoholic thinking. That's selfish and self-centeredness, and haven't had a drink in a long time, haven't wanted to drink in a long time. And but growing up isn't easy. And I'm really glad I found this group. And thank you so much for, you know, coming to this meeting and sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us. And thanks for not giving up on me, all y'all. And I'll pass.
Thanks, Kathy. How about my friend Babe?
Hello, kids. I'm Babe. I'm an alcoholic. And yeah, I'm taking that. I want to have an open heart thing, even though it's broken. The greatest gratitude we get is through our deepest sorrows. The greatest love we have is through the deepest pain. I wake up every single morning and it's a Richard Rohr kind of thing. I'm mourning, God, here I am. Please surprise me. And then I ask, what do you want me to think about? And well, what's nice, maybe it's just the fact that I'm 73 years old. My arthritis is killing me every morning, so I do not hit my knees. And my 73-year-old prostate, I barely get through the 3rd step prayer before I have to go to the bathroom. But my life is so freaking big. You know, I don't have to worry about getting up and going to work. You know, my youngest grandson's 16 years old, getting a driver's license. So that might be an exciting thing. But I get to talk to like 100 people every single morning. I've got no place that I have to be, no place that I have to go, nothing I have to do. I love the idea of God's fingerprints, even though I don't believe God has hands, but to see where God has touched my life. You know, Kate and I laughed the whole 15 months. She died right here where I'm sitting. I sat with her every single day for that 15 months, 46-year marriage. And that 15 months was the most beautiful thing. We laughed. Even the day she died, we laughed. And it was a sincere laugh. And in the middle of it, it was a dark night of my soul. God took my awakened spirit into his world and said, babe, in my world, somebody's saying, this is the best day of my life. I fell in love. We're having a baby. And this was 4 years ago. Since that day, I realized I no longer get to have bad days. You know, you go to the meeting, I'm having a bad day. I don't get bad days. I get to have selfish days. And I say, God, have somebody call me, and some knucklehead calls me, you know? And like 2 years after she died, you know, I got these young ladies that I sponsor. They're my grandkids. And they're saying, babe, get on a dating site. You know, you're such a great person. You need a woman. And so I got on one for a second, never talked to any of these people. And then God put in my head, why would you want to do that? That's saying there's something wrong with your life. And my life is beyond my wildest dreams, because this is a way of life beyond my wildest dreams. I'm happy, content. You know, the one young lady at an in-person meeting came up, and this was years ago. Babe, you're just so damn happy, I want to punch you. I didn't know how to respond. All I could think of to do is give her a hug. You know, what do you do? I just want, and I do actually, that's why I didn't know that's what the format of this meeting was. But I sometimes think I'm nuts. You know, people say, babe, you're exactly the same in person as you are on Zoom. Well, yeah, what you see is what you get. And how can I not be happy? I've had the most incredible life, and now I know more and more. My world's bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just can't get enough of this stuff. The only thing I worried about in the book, it says the best years of your life lie ahead. And I think, well, that sucks because there ain't many of them left. But at least it says years. It doesn't say the best moments lie ahead. You know, it's just how we look at the world. And I'll end with this. A Franciscan priest wrote a book called Divinio Franciscan Divinio. And I hadn't seen this guy, and I'm don't even consider myself a Christian, but I like Richard Rohr, Thomas Merton, and St. Bonaventure is right down the road here where those guys are. Well, this Franciscan priest wrote this beautiful book. It's in the style of Richard Rohr. Then I went and bought 3 of them, you know, because they're supposed to be living in poverty, and it was like $23 a hit for the book. I almost kidded him about that. But I bought one for me and one for a couple of my sponsees. But he hadn't seen me in like 15 years, and what he wrote in my book is, babe, God's light shines through you. What a beautiful compliment. And it's not that I'm trying to do this. I'm just being me. I'm just hanging out here with all of you goofballs too, loving every minute of life. As long as it is, I'm going to have a good time doing it. So thank you, dear. I could listen to you for hours.
Thanks, babe. How about Sarah? Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. Sarah, alcoholic. Arisa, everything you were saying was like, it was like, wow, those are the thoughts that go through my head. I wish I could word them so well. It's like, it was like amazing. There was, I was like taking notes. It was so amazing. God's grace for sure. And right from the beginning, when you were talking about, we show up to, we do this program to help others get out of God's way. And, you know, every day I report for duty, and because the prayers that carry the most weight are not the rarest beauty, are those in which we don't demand, but just report for duty. And so like, I try to every day, try to get out of God's way. And as long as I'm doing that, I know that it's going to be, you know, I don't have bad days either. You know, a bad day is, I don't know what a bad day is, but I have days that I don't like so much, but I don't have bad days. Because God doesn't make bad days, and bad things might be happening, but they're not God doing them to me. You know, I have this thing about not telling my mountain not telling God how big my mountain is, but tell my mountain how big my God is. You know, and you were talking about the God, how big your God is, and about the acceptance and one of the, and I've never heard it quite put that way about thinking that acceptance, but that's how I felt. Acceptance is like thinking that I'm allowing you to do whatever you want to me, no matter how it hurts me or no matter what it does, and I'm just supposed to take it, and I'm supposed to stay in my lane, little girl, because that's where you belong, and that kind of thing. But I had learned a long time ago that, that's not what I know acceptance to be today. Acceptance to me today is that acceptance it doesn't mean I like it, but it doesn't necessarily mean I agree with it or condone it or will support it in any way. It just means that that's the way things are. And that, if God wants me to be helping and change that, then he will show me how to do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to get out of the way and let, and that's none of my business. I don't have to be a part of that, which I don't like. I can accept it and move away from it. I don't have to be in the middle of it. And then, the other thing that comes to mind often, for me, but that really came clear to me tonight was that we talk about participation being the key to harmony. For me, that's it. I've got to participate. I've got to pay attention and I've got to participate. And if I'm not participating in my life, then I'm missing out. I lost my husband a year ago. And I did have one of those deathbed experiences with him I was so grateful for, but that's because you guys showed me how to do that. You guys showed me, and I had people here who actually told me when it was time to climb into bed with him so he could die in my arms. And that you don't get that anywhere else. That gets here, and the idea that God has enough sugar to make anything sweet. I love that. I too was at the IWC in Dallas, and that was, I think I get these things and then I get, oh my God, I get to have more, get more of this. How cool is that? But thank you so much for sharing. And like was said earlier, I could listen to you all night long. I mean, it's just amazing. And I hope you don't mind, but I wrote down your phone number. It's listed there. And I hope you don't mind if I call you sometime. But,
Absolutely.
and that's all I've got to share tonight. Thank you so much for calling on me and letting me say thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. So I'm going to ask Irina to go next because I'm going to be in Hershey, Pennsylvania next year for Arisa. So I hope I will get to meet you. So Irina, would you like to share? Irina, there you go.
Yeah, hi, thank you. That was just absolutely awesome, Arisa. And you will love Hershey. I will make a point of introducing myself at Arisa.
Please do.
We're excited about setting up the facility. I loved your share. I loved your reminder of checking to make sure that my hand is in God's hand. What a beautiful image. And doing that constantly. I like your constant references to the 10th step, which I try working on an ongoing basis. And I love the story of the two women at your mother's funeral. That's just God showing up. That is so beautiful. It brought tears to my eyes. I think that's all I'm going to say. Thank you. Let other people put in their 2 cents worth. And I will look forward to you at Arisa.
Thank you, Irina. Erin, would you like to share?
Wow, sorry about that. Thank you, Arisa. My name is Erin. I'm an alcoholic. I really related to your share. I love the part about rolling out of bed. I'm trying to incorporate that into my practice because, the committee gets going before you can get to the toilet. I have a nice sheepskin rug for a soft landing when I hit my knees. I am new-ish. I've got about 3 or 4 years. So I'm making a second pass with the steps with a sponsor I've been working with. She's on the call now for almost a year, and I'm smack dab in the middle of the 10th and the 11th step. Your share really resonated with me because my mom is dying. She is 80 years old. She celebrated her 80th birthday yesterday. She has Parkinson's. She's 53 years away from her last drink and got sober in AA, but never got a sponsor, really had experience with the book or work the steps. So it's untreated alcoholism. And I allowed myself to get really, really frustrated with her and her behaviors and not being compliant in taking care of herself the way that I thought would be most effective to make me feel okay as the eldest daughter and the responsible one. And if she would just listen, you know, everything would be okay. And I've taken on a new persona, this hippie chick that you see in front of you in the last few months as a part of this journey. I'm shedding her tomorrow on Good Friday. I'm gonna go see my hairstylist, get my hair colored and cut, and try to come back to being an adult child of God. And I want to close with this. I had a beautiful experience after speaking with my sponsor and getting more centered and leaving some of this childish thinking and putting my hand in God's hand and really earnestly working a 10th step last night when I called my mom to wish her a happy birthday. And I let her know that I recognized that I had been wanting to control her, the way that she takes her blood pressure, whether or not she's going to wear a life-saving monitor, if she's eating right, if she's drinking right. And I said, Mom, I'm going to stop. You know, a couple of months ago, I read a beautiful book with her on death and dying. And I want to get back to that place where I can allow her her own passage, doing it her own way, you know, whatever that looks like. I just want to be there to love her. And when I told her that I was going to stop doing that and that I could see that, you know, the 4th step all over it, my intentions were good. I just want what's the best for her. And yet there are self-seeking motives because I want it so that I feel okay. And it's frustrating the heck out of me. And I know it's frustrating her. And because I was able to get honest, and I don't know where the words came from, I'm not expressing myself as well on this call as I did with her last night. It was God speaking through me. And, you know, she said, I know I can be really frustrating. And, you know, I thank you for saying that. And as sick as she is, I think she saw that 10th step in there. And I got a lot more peace last night than I've felt in a long, long time. And doing my 11th step when I retired at night and turned in was a joy. So thank you for sharing. And yeah, I'm excited to hear you. I got a call from a woman before this meeting telling me about you. And so I came in with big expectations, and I like what you said, that it's okay to have expectations because miracles can happen and God is big, and God brought you to me in this space. And I heard what I needed to hear to help me on my path. So thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
I would like the opportunity at this moment, because we're going to close pretty soon. But if there's anybody that had any questions, to go to a show of hand. Just if anyone had any questions. All right, one more person, and then we'll get ready to close.
Well, Joel, it was going to be you. Am I allowed to call on you?
Well, Dawn got her hand up.
Oh, she did. Oops, I didn't see that. Dawn, please go ahead.
Thank you for sharing. I don't have anything to add. I just wanted to make sure to be able to say an announcement before the prayer, because a lot of people just pop right off with the prayer. Next week after this meeting, we'll be holding a group conscience for doing some rearranging with the service here. So I do appreciate your share. Thank you so much. And Joel, you're on.
Wow. Arisa, you're on fire. You just knocked it right out of the park. You know, while you were speaking, I guess because you brought back memories of the Atlanta group, I realized that Van had been preparing me for emotional sobriety so long ago. I mean, Charles mentioned it. I mean, one of our conversations, Van told me straight out, he says, Joel, what other people think of you is none of your business. And the other thing was he would cringe when he heard everybody say, we will love you until you learn to love yourself. And he would just cringe. And he said, no, we will love you until you learn to love others. I mean, he was preparing me right away for this emotional sobriety trip. What we generally do at this meeting is we go into our inner room, and for a brief moment, we say a prayer or meditate and reflect on what was just said, and then we'll close